Welcome into another edition of Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Today on the show, don't be mad if the Falcons win more games than you want them to. Ritter or Willis, did the Falcons make the right decision? And I'm saying no to this proposed Hawks trade. It's all next. It's Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery on Locked On Sports Atlanta.
This is Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
We welcome you into another edition of Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, asking you to head over to YouTube, youtube.com. Put in your browser Locked On Sports Atlanta. You can find the show. Subscribe, ever growing, man. A lot of folks are signing up. We're pushing toward 1,000 subscribers, so we really appreciate everybody being a part of our new community. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think about the show. Give us a review. And also to follow me on my Twitter page at JMCH316. Don't be mad if the Falcons win more than what you want them to. Now, if you look at Vegas odds right now, you've got multiple sports books that have the Falcons somewhere between 4.5, 5 wins, somewhere around in that range. I'm sure there are a few outlier sports books that have them a little bit higher, a little bit lower, whatever like that. But 4.5, 5 wins is about where most sports books have the Falcons right now. Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot to this degree too. They have both been very open and honest about the idea of they're not tanking, they're trying to build, they're trying to win. Now, we know the challenge is you moved on from that, this, that, and the other, and things like that. Arthur Smith recently spoke with Albert Breer of Monday Morning Quarterback and asked about what the goals are and what they're trying to do and this and the other. Arthur Smith said this, quote, "You're always trying to win." And the caption that they have says, Smith says with a little edge in his voice, quote, "I don't know what coach goes in there and doesn't try to win. That's just insane to me. Now, I know everyone's at different phases. There's been a lot of teams crowned in the offseason, but this team's excited to go out there and compete. That's what we get paid to do. It's as simple as that." And I agree with the coach. I know there are a lot of Falcon fans that are hoping that we're really bad and awful and we're tanking and we're going to get in the CJ Stroud or Bryce Young conversation, and that's where we're going to end up. And yeah, I know we drafted Ritter this year, but we're going to be back in the top 3 and we're going to get one of those stud quarterbacks and off our franchise goes. As Lee Corso likes to say, not so fast, my friends. We saw last year Arthur Smith, what he did with a depleted roster. I would tell you last year's roster was worse than the one the year before. And when you factor in, for instance, they had 18 sacks, one of the most dreadful numbers maybe ever in the NFL defensively. And through all of that, still found a way to win 7 games. Now, obviously, they had a very experienced and successful quarterback at the helm leading their team. So there is something to be said about that. But if we look at what Arthur Smith, Dean Pease are able to do with lesser talent, then I think the Falcons are in for certainly a more successful year than what the Vegas odds have them for. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win 10, 11, 12 games or something like that. But if you told me that they won 6 or 7 games this year, I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. Now, you win 6 or 7 games and you're sitting, 5, 6, 7, 8 or whatever, you're not in the CJ Stroud, Bryce Young category. You're not in the mix for one of those guys. You better be a top 3 team if you want one of those guys, because I have a hard time imagining, and I've seen mocks already for next year and this and the other and all the nonsense. How are you going to tell me that Stroud, Young, and Will Anderson aren't the 3 top picks in the draft? That's the 3 far and away best players in college football coming back. I mean, far and away. It's not even close. Who's 4th? Who's the next best player behind those 3 guys? The absolute wrecking crew of defensive player, and then the 2 far and away top-tier quarterbacks, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner and the guy who's going to lead, without a doubt, the most potent offense in America. And you saw at the end of last year, even with Olave and Wilson sitting on the Rose Bowl, didn't matter. 90 touchdowns in the Rose Bowl against Utah, who's a good defensive team, by the way. But that's the 3 top tier guys without question. And if you're not in the top 3, you're not going to be there. And I'm not expecting a 3-14 top year from the Falcons. I don't think they're going to be great, but Arthur Smith is telling you that they don't have plans on tanking and being bad and things like that. Now, Arthur Smith also in this article, in talking about bringing guys in and creating a winning culture and bringing in players who want to win. Quote, you need results in some way, shape, or form to have that buy-in. You can't just be selling hope. And I think last year, certainly, we didn't get to where we wanted to. We weren't playing in the postseason. But we were in it until just about the very end, all the way until Buffalo in early January. So the team did start to see results. They saw the mindset shift. They understand what style we want to play in all 3 phases. There was definitely progress made. And I agree. And I agree wholeheartedly. They've already talked about Fontenot and Smith about the idea of bringing in players who want to win. We've heard Casey Hayward say, hey, look, he's super excited to play with A.J. Terrell, and he came here to win. So even the guys that you're bringing in, and this is what I talk about bringing in guys from a winning culture. It's why I get frustrated about bringing in so many people from the Chicago Bears. Why not bring in guys from a winning culture? Tennessee, New Orleans, places that Fontenot and Smith have direct contact with. And yes, they have brought in several guys from the Tennessee Titans, right? They brought the long snapper in. They brought Rashaan Evans in. I mean, they've brought guys in. But my point is, this is part of why I got frustrated about bringing in guys from the Chicago Bears organization, front office coach, GM, players, because they don't have any culture of winning. Doesn't matter. It's more than just their 1-year contract and, well, they won't be here. And it doesn't matter. This is not a throwaway year in the eyes of the coach and the general manager. They're trying to build this thing up, create a core, create a group of guys and a culture that embraces winning. And that's what you want. That's why I think Arthur Smith and Dean Pease really are the right guys for this job right now. That I'm very much excited. Look, I have more confidence in Terry Fontenot than I did, say, even a month or 2 ago. But after last year, I had a bunch of confidence in Arthur Smith. And I think he's a good coach, and I think he's going to help this organization out tremendously. But this idea of tanking, and again, the idea of bringing in guys from organizations that don't win is tough. Now, Arthur talking about in the rebuild and where we're at and moving on from that, blah, blah. Quote, you want to do it in phases. You got to assess the place. You don't truly know a place until you're there for a whole year, what's really doable and what's not. Obviously, as we transitioned last year, it started to feel a lot different than it'd been. Normally, there's a natural progression. When you bring in a new GM and coach, I always say this, and I'll go on record, they had really good coaches. I have a ton of respect for Dan and that staff. But as things cycle out, there's a new regime in, and we had to go through our own transition, and that's not going to all happen overnight. You need to assess everything, and that team last year competed the best it could. I think we have a much clearer picture now. And you've seen the Falcons address needs in free agency, in the draft, that they're building this thing up. So again, I'll say to you, don't be frustrated or don't be angry if the Falcons don't look like a team that's tanking, if they're not below what their win total is. They are trying to win now. You can say it's crazy because of the roster and this and the other, and I'm not going to completely argue that. But they're building a culture and a mindset and finding players and making draft picks based upon what they've got to do to elevate this thing and take it to the next level. And I know Terry Fontenot, has talked about the idea of that we're on maybe some similar path of Buffalo. Okay, to be honest with you, Buffalo drafted a quarterback and it completely worked out. Probably worked out better. Well, it worked out better than I thought it was going to work out. I said Josh Allen was the kind of guy that gets your GM fired, but it's worked out even better than they could have imagined. So if you do get the quarterback right, and again, we'll talk about Desmond Ridder in the next segment. If they do get the quarterback right, then this thing goes in a quick fashion. It's going to go quickly. It won't take this team long. But I think they have the right guy at the helm. I like what Dean Pease does for the defense. And just imagine that even if they can just take a couple of steps of improvement year over year, they may have lost Ridley and there are no more Julio and Matt. And it is a transitional roster from what it was just a few years ago and what the mindset of let's go all in for Super Bowl. But bringing Grady back and having some of those leaders, he talked about Jake Matthews and Chris Lindstrom as being leaders. He talked about A.J. Terrell and Grady Jarrett being leaders. This is also why it's important to keep your core and keep your good players around. Keeping Grady Jarrett around, who's been with the organization and knows what the culture is and knows what this franchise is like. It's important to have that continuity and keep guys that have been here and show other players about what it means to win. And Grady, I know we haven't won much the last few years, but Grady was here for the Super Bowl year. He was here for the Super Bowl year. He was here for the year after that when they were a divisional playoff team. So I like the direction that this thing is going. All good on the Arthur Smith, but don't be mad if they win more than what you think. All right, when we come back, Desmond Ridder, Malik Willis. Some people asking, did the Falcons pick the right quarterback? We'll talk about it next on Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery on Locked On Sports Atlanta.